We usually think of, being fired or rejected for a loan or even denied housing as a confrontation. You expect a tense meeting, maybe a phone call, or at the very least a letter that explains why.
Right, some kind of explanation.
But Albert Hadi, in his book, The AI versus Humanity, he argues that the most life-altering verdicts today, they happen in total silence.
Yeah.
There's no meeting, no argument. It's just a silent, invisible determination made before you even walk in the room.
It's the difference between a door being slammed in your face and finding out there was never a door there for you in the first place.
Exactly. And that is the invisible verdict we are digging into today. We're looking at Hadi's work, and I want to be clear up front. This isn't a deep dive into, like, future sci-fi robots or Skynet.
No, not at all.
We are not talking about the singularity. The mission today is to unpack Hadi's argument about power. Specifically, this transfer of authority from human judgment to technical structures that are governing our lives right now.
That's the key distinction. Hadi isn't writing about computer science. He's writing about bureaucracy. He's arguing that we've handed over the keys to our social mobility. Who gets hired? Who gets treated? Who gets home to systems that are fundamentally designed to be unaccountable?
So let's start with that reality check, because I think a lot of people, myself included, we still sort of compartmentalize this stuff.
Sure.
We think, okay, algorithms decide what movie Netflix recommends to me, or, what ads I see on Instagram. Low-stakes stuff. But Hadi says we need to look at the pillars of a functional life.
He's talking about the gatekeepers: work, health, education, housing. The argument is that in these really high-stakes fields, the decision-making process has moved upstream.
Upstream. Let's pause on that concept because it comes up a lot in the book. What does he mean by decisions happening upstream?
Well, think about the traditional way you get a job. You submit a resume, maybe a cover letter. A human hiring manager reads it, maybe sees you went to the same college or likes your experience, and then they call you. The decision happens after an interaction. Okay. Upstream means the decision is made before the human element even enters the picture. The algorithm has already filtered you out based on keywords or gaps in employment or some probability score before a human ever even knows you applied.
So if I have say, a 6-month gap in my resume because I was taking care of a sick parent, a human might understand that context.
A human can read between the lines.
They might even see loyalty or responsibility there, but an upstream system just sees
employment gap, and employment gap equals risk.
And that's it?
That's it. The system just doesn't have the capacity for narrative. It deals in correlations, and this is happening everywhere. I mean, take healthcare, which is one of the more disturbing sections of the book.
Yeah, let's get into the health aspect. Because we trust doctors. We assume that if we are sick, the medical system is designed to treat us based on need. But Hadi suggests there's a filter there, too.
There is, and it's often driven by insurance and hospital administration software. These systems are designed to predict complexity or risk. There have been cases, and Hadi cites a few, where algorithms assign risk scores to patients to help hospitals manage their resources.
Okay, that makes some sense, but the problem is, what data are they using to define that need?
Exactly. You'd think it would be your medical history.
Vital signs, lab results, things like that.
You'd hope so. But often, they use past healthcare spending as a proxy for sickness. The logic is, sick people spend more money on doctors.
Oh, I see where this is going. If you're poor or uninsured or have historically lacked access to care,
you haven't spent much money. So the algorithm looks at you, sees low spending, and it categorizes you as low risk or healthy, even if you are in critical condition.
Wow.
So you get deprioritized for extra support or preventative care. All because the math equates poverty with health. That is an upstream decision that affects your physical survival based on a totally flawed proxy.
And that's the structural invisibility he talks about. If you don't get that extra care, you don't think, the algorithm failed me. You think, I guess I wasn't sick enough, or maybe the system's just busy. You internalize it.
Precisely. You feel like you failed, or that it's just bad luck.
Yeah.
But it's actually a rigid, automated policy. And that leads us to, I think, the biggest hurdle in understanding this, the myth of neutrality.
This is the one I struggle with sometimes because, playing devil's advocate here. Humans are terrible decision makers. We're racist, sexist, we get tired, we get hungry, we're biased. Isn't there an argument that even if it's imperfect, a machine is at least consistent? It doesn't hate you, it just does math.
And that is the seductive part of the argument.
Yeah.
Of course, we want to believe that math is the great equalizer, but Hadi just tears this apart by looking at how the machine learns.
Okay.
It doesn't learn from a textbook on ethics. It learns from historical data.
Garbage in, garbage out.
It's worse than just garbage. It's history. If you train a hiring algorithm on the last 10 years of successful employees at a tech firm, and that firm has historically only hired men from 3 specific universities.
The algorithm learns that man from Stanford equals success.
Right. But it's subtler than that even. Most developers know you can't just put gender or race into the code as a variable. I mean, that's illegal.
So how does it?
The machine finds proxies.
Proxies like what?
Like zip codes, like the vocabulary you use in your cover letter, like the sports you played in college. If the algorithm notices that people who played lacrosse tend to get promoted and people who live in a certain zip code tend to quit, it starts filtering by lacrosse and zip code.
So it's not looking for race, but it's finding it anyway.
It effectively recreates the exact same bias as the racist human manager, but now it's hidden behind a complex risk score.
So it's laundering the bias. It takes human prejudice, washes it through a black box, and it comes out looking like an objective employability score.
And that makes it infinitely harder to fight. If a manager says, I don't hire people from your neighborhood, you can sue them. You have a case.
Right.
If an algorithm says, this candidate scored a 62 out of 100 on the compatibility index, and you ask why,
They just shrug and say, the computer said so.
or they say, we don't know. And sometimes that's even true. With deep learning and modern AI, sometimes even the designers don't know exactly which variables weighted the decision. The bias becomes baked into the infrastructure itself.
Which brings us to the who. Who is actually building this stuff? Because if these systems are governing our health and our jobs, you'd hope there's some kind of oversight. Like civil engineers build bridges, but if a bridge collapses, they go to jail. There are standards. Who are these designers Hadi talks about?
Well, they're private entities. They are data mining companies, defense contractors, tech consulting firms. And Hadi points out this massive conflict of interest. A civil engineer has a duty to public safety. A doctor has a Hippocratic oath. The developers of these algorithms,
They have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders.
exactly. So their incentive isn't fairness, it's efficiency.
Efficiency, liability reduction, and profit.
Those are the 3 pillars. If a hospital algorithm can save the hospital money by discharging patients faster, it's considered a successful algorithm, even if the readmission rate for, say, vulnerable people goes up slightly.
It's a total mismatch of incentives.
Yeah.
The thing that is good for the company's speed, low cost, is often terrible for the human being processed by it.
And there is no public mandate. That's a phrase Hadi uses that really stuck with me. We never voted on this. There was no referendum that said, hey, should we replace loan officers with predictive code? It just happened. It was a quiet re-engineering of class and mobility purchased by companies to streamline their operations.
It feels like we're living in a kind of contractor state. The rules of society are being written in the terms of service of private software vendors.
That's a very accurate way to put it. And it leads to the whole concept of the black box. We touched on this with the idea of proxies, but the legal aspect is fascinating and terrifying.
Right, because I asked earlier, why can't we just ask why? Why can't I demand to see the code that rejected my application?
Because of proprietary trade secrets. Hadi explains that these algorithms are intellectual property. If a company reveals exactly how their scoring system works, they argue they're giving away their competitive advantage. So, courts have historically protected the black box.
Wait. So if I take a company to court for discrimination because their bot rejected me, they can legally say, we can't show you the evidence because it's a trade secret.
In many cases, yes. The mechanism of judgment is sealed off, and this creates what the book calls displacement of judgment. The judgment has been relocated from a human mind, which you can question, into a proprietary vault that you cannot open.
That is, well, it's a perfect shield. It's accountability laundering.
And the result is structural exclusion. You end up with a layer of society that is constantly flagged as risky or ineligible across multiple systems, housing, credit, jobs, without ever knowing the specific data point that is triggering the rejection.
It's like a permanent record that you can't read and you can't correct.
Exactly. And because these systems share data brokers, sell your info from one platform to another, a mistake in one place can ripple out if you're flagged as a credit risk. That might affect your insurance rates, which might affect your housing eligibility. It's a web.
And the moral cover for all of this is efficiency. We keep coming back to that word.
Efficiency is the ultimate excuse. It just shuts down debate. If you say, this system seems unfair, the response is, but look how fast it is. We process 10,000 applications in an hour.
Yeah.
Hadi argues that efficiency has become a moral value that actually supersedes justice. We have decided collectively that it is better to be fast than to be right.
Or at least the people buying the software have decided that. I'm not so sure the person applying for the loan agreed to that trade-off.
And that's the crux of the no public mandate. The people subject to the systems, you and me, we were never asked if we wanted to trade our right to a fair hearing for the bank's ability to save a little money on payroll.
So when we look at the big picture here, the AI versus humanity isn't predicting some future war. It's saying the occupation has already happened.
Yes. The book is a map of the occupied territory. It's showing us that we aren't waiting for technology to change our lives. It has already rewritten the social contract. We are currently living in a world where the most important decisions about our lives are made by machines we don't understand, owned by people we didn't vote for.
It's a heavy realization. It really strips away the illusion that if you just work hard and play by the rules, you'll be fine. Because the rules are changing and they aren't posted on the wall anymore.
They're buried in the code. But Hadi doesn't leave it entirely at doom and gloom. The point of the book is to make the invisible visible. You can't fight a problem you can't name.
Oh, yeah.
By identifying upstream filtering, proxy variables, and the black box, he's giving us the vocabulary to start demanding something better.
It's about recentering the human element, the context.
Right. We have to insist that efficiency isn't the only metric. We have to insist that there is a value to human dignity, to hearing someone's story, to understanding why a resume has a gap or why a credit score dropped. That context is what makes us human, and it's exactly what these systems are designed to ignore.
So where does this leave the listener? We've unpacked the mechanism, the bias, the legal shields. What's the final thought to chew on?
I think it comes back to the question of freedom. We usually define freedom as the absence of constraints. I can go where I want, say what I want. But Hadi poses a different definition.
Which is?
Freedom is the ability to be understood. If your life is being dictated by a profile that bears no resemblance to your actual reality and you have no way to correct it, are you free or are you just efficiently managed?
That's the haunting part. Efficiently managed.
Yeah.
Like inventory.
Right. If these systems continue to rewrite the rules of opportunity without public debate, and if the black box prevents us from ever knowing why a decision was made, at what point does efficiency become an existential threat to liberty?
It's a question that makes you look at every submit button a little differently. We traded friction for speed, but we might have traded away something much more valuable in the process.
And getting it back is going to be a lot harder than giving it up was.
The AI versus Humanity by Albert Hadi. It's definitely not the sci-fi romp I thought it might be, but it's a crucial manual for navigating the present.
Essential reading for anyone who wants to know who is actually pulling the levers.
We're going to wrap it up there. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. As you go about your week, maybe pay a little more attention to the silence after you click apply.
And question the score.
Always question the score. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Take care.